I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order on Monday, May 11th at 5 p.m. The first item on our agenda is to review, discuss, and vote on any previous meeting minutes. And we have minutes from April 15th. In the packet.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Is there any motion on those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. With everybody, I'll let everybody peruse them.
Done.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Okay, so we're on to the major part of our meeting, which is to set the finance committee recommendations on the operating budget, the capital planning, and make our recommendations on articles. So the first thing is to review, discuss, and vote on the FY 2027 operating budget. I'm gonna let Pete take over because there were some changes.
There's been a few changes. So the first change, and all of this is represented in the packet that you put into your binder, is our town accountant has resigned. His last day will be the 21st. One of the key elements was due to the fact that the position really does require a significant or number increase in hours in order to actually fulfill all the responsibilities. He's gotten it up and organized very well, but with the amount of invoices processing, also just keeping tab on each of the department accounts and following up with vendors, there was a need for additional hours, which he can't personally take. But we also haven't budgeted for it. So in order to make sure that we're providing enough hours to that next town account, but also increase the possible pool of applicants, my recommendation is moving that to a 24-hour-a-week position. So the budget that you put into your binder, not the alt budget, but your budget that you put into your binder is 24 hours a week at a mid-level pay rate, because I don't know what the applicant is for experience. And then because it's 24 hours, they then would be benefited. So then I added in an additional family plan to the group insurance. So we had both of those budget adjustments. Outside of that, we then found out on Friday, that a Whately resident has been accepted and will start at Smith Oak next year for the school year. So I've now updated the Smith Oak budget from $0 to
A lot.
There's the 28, let's get to it.
Yeah, what we're 13, number 4. With the backs.
So it's 22,559 for the tuition next year for out of district students, and then it's 34,200 for transportation service.
Whoa.
Good grief.
Yeah.
I always thought that might be a nice job
Yeah.
for a couple of hours a day.
I will shop the number around further, but that is the number of the service that Deerfield uses. So our student would be with that same pool going into Smith Oak with the Deerfield route.
Is the student going there for a special ed purpose or for a shop that we don't offer Franklin Tire?
I don't know that detail.
Okay.
So that budget the budget that you put into your binder includes all of those. When you look at the big picture implication, which is that long sheet, overall, it means that our operating budget will go to $7.5 million, which is a 7.44% increase over the current year's budget of $6,989,000. Which, with our conservative numbers of revenue, it would result in a tax rate increase of $1.43. what this alt,
Big deal. Is this, do we know what year the student is?
sorry, what,
What year is this? We don't know. So we don't know if this is a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year.
not yet, no.
Okay.
But we're at least for FY 27, we know that they're gonna be there. This alternate packet that I've given you is looking at a potential way to do some savings. And so what I did is I recalculated everybody to a 2% COLA instead of the 2.5%. Fortunately, it didn't do much of a savings for us. It does reduce the operating budget
By a penny.
by a penny on the tax rate, by $5,000 in the operating budget in total, but it's a penny reduction. Because personnel is really not where
That's
a lot of our costs are going. But I just wanted to do a calculation in case there was a discussion point. Where this is where I know where we could do a quick savings, is not like a COLA reduction. We could go through the different budgets and make determinations if we want to.
Right, Troy
find
was
other
making
savings.
the point earlier, maybe we should approach this from level funding, just like the schools did. There's a lot more money in terms of departmental growth beyond level funded. Outside of what we're gonna save by taking the wages down. So I don't think is a good approach. I'd rather look at the budgets. Say, do you really need it this year? As a way to get those costs down. Suggestion.
Well.
Starting at a level of funding now is probably
Yeah.
too late.
You know, the only thing I think you could do is take like a certain percentage off of everybody's budget, except the schools, because you can't do that to the schools because they vote the budget. But, the other alternative is we can kind of look at the different groups of budgets and say, is there any room for savings on any of these budgets? Did anybody, during the budget presentations, did anybody do something that they thought might be a little extravagant, or I
A
don't think
larger
any of them
increase than
are
you might have.
extravagant, but,
Yeah,
a
a larger increase than.
No, not really.
expected.
So,
I mean, most of them had pretty good explanations. I myself was a little concerned about the explanations we got, the justifications we got on the highway department.
That was the one I was gonna say too, yeah.
I know it's hard being a new person coming in, but it just seems like there were quite a few line items that I didn't feel confident that he gave a good explanation as to why they were going up that high. Especially like the street sweeping where only 1,300, I think, was spent. Now it's going to 9,000. That just seemed,
I followed up on that with him, and we haven't swept the road since we switched to salt. So Keith was only sweeping the roads that he was working on, and that's the
Right.
roads that got swept, so none of the rest of the town got swept. And that's why I did that. So,
do they need to be, I guess is the question.
they did, yeah, like I went down Long Plain Road, it's been done since then, but just woodly gravel, sign of them. Pedestrians that walk, bikers,
it's not safe.
it's not
Well,
safe.
I know that my road was oiled in stone last year, so
So
that,
those
that
ones,
one,
yeah.
those should, well,
When they do the oil and stone, they come back through and they clean it up, that's what he used the $1,500 for.
okay.
But he didn't do any of the other roads, none of them got done. And that's why.
So can I back up a second? So, okay, so the student going to voc tech school it's all triggered by that. Do I have that straight?
What's triggered by that?
This discussion of cutting the budget because, I mean, is.
No, in general,
It's,
it's up to us to vote on each of these items on whether we're going to recommend them.
before the town accountant adjustment and the Smith Folk, the budget increase was 5.4 or
Okay.
5.5% increase over last year.
Yeah,
With those added pieces, it's now increasing at 7.5%, so, or to 7.44%. So the question is the finance committee okay with that kind of sizable increase?
how-
If not, where would you do the savings?
and how close does that push us toward a 2.5% override vote?
We still have,
Isn't that part of the issue? Like, we don't wanna,
Correct.
I mean.
Each
somebody-
year is going to get
I
more
hear that,
difficult.
but I'm just wondering, can we absorb it this year?
Oh, yeah. you can
We
throw
can,
it this-
Without any, but it narrows the amount of wiggle room.
it does.
Right,
So just to give you an idea, the tax levy limit last year was 6.5 million.
Oh,
For FY 27, we're only looking at 6.176.
huh.
So we're under even last
We're-
year.
we're-
That's before you.
The budget's going up and the income is going down. You're saying. Taxes are going,
Faster than the
I didn't say anything about it.
housing.
I thought you talked about how much tax revenue we're getting.
No. I said what our limit was.
Oh,
Limit.
Our limit last year that we could maximum, like the highest that we could tax the community
right.
was $6.5 million. That was
Oh,
our
and
ceiling,
and
not how much we
it
did
would-
tax, but how much our ceiling was.
Okay,
Every year you can add to that, right? Our budget that we're proposing with all the receipts and whatnot, the actual amount that we would need to raise through taxes, it's only 6.17 next year, or this coming year. So if last year we were at 6.5, even next year's proposed budget, we're still under last year's ceiling, and that ceiling continues to move up. Does that make sense?
Because our
I
expenses
think
exceed
so.
2.5%. The growth in the budget exceeds 2.5%, so we're gonna hit it soon.
We will hit it soon. Yeah, we're slowly getting close to this.
but at least for this year, we could just absorb these increases.
we could,
We
we
can.
could vote to.
But then next year, we could be creating a problem.
Next year or the year after.
I mean, 28.
Can we just go back to the town accountant for a minute? Just objectively speaking, take the personal side of this out of this. Dara used to do this job, right?
No, FERCog used to provide the service.
What I'm getting at was there enough time for the previous
There was
person?
not.
There was
No.
not. enough.
No, so the
So it's
great
not
thing,
that this person was over their head, it was just more work they could do in that amount of time.
So the great- so the great thing about the FERCog was we had an agreement that covered 10 hours a week.
Yeah,
Dara did well over that. The FERCog paid her what she actually did, but we were only ever charged based on the agreement, which was the 10 hours.
okay,
We then, when we needed to take on the budget ourselves, with Dara, she acknowledged that she was always doing more and getting paid more. So we bumped from 10, what we were doing under FERCog, to a 15-hour
Okay.
in our current budget. But that turned out to not be enough.
okay. Okay,
So theoretically, you could, looking at this page that has the difference on it. Of the operating budgets between the 2 years, on the comprehensive budget document. You could say, hey, we need everybody to take a little haircut and take 15% off your difference, not your percentage difference. Whatever the delta is on the dollars, and you'd save 75 grand. Which would offset the student, which may or may not be a one-time event. And should help with that $1.43 increase. Little bit.
Sorry,
Sure, I think Linda had mentioned, why don't we think about it as a percentage rather than level funded?
but reduce everybody's budget by 15%.
The difference by 15%, so.
Somebody might.
The
No, I
General
don't.
government is
I don't know
50.
that you want to do a percentage on the difference.
Oh, I would just say take 1 or 2% off of the
The
budget,
budget itself.
rather
Yeah.
than,
Okay,
And understand, there are some budgets that we cannot, like group health insurance,
I understand,
Medicaid, some of those.
but
we can't
those
just do.
components that are
right,
a little more fungible, you could impact.
The ones that we have direct control over, yeah. Yeah.
I say you can't touch the educational.
Can't check or FERCog, anything where there's an assessment, we can't
Fair
do
enough.
any changes to those.
I mean, that's just one option out there.
Right, I think you get to the same place that I'm suggesting.
And the other option is we could just fund this budget as it's been presented to us. But next year, we're gonna have to, I think Peter,
Next year, we have to do it.
we're gonna have to tell people that they're gonna have to.
Just say it's level funded next year.
My recommendation is that we have department put together both a level funded budget and a reduction. budget.
A level services budget might be,
Yeah,
So you keep the same level of service.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
That's not gonna fly the elementary school, the increase in.
well, we
Sorry.
wouldn't
Yeah,
touch
you
the school.
can't touch it.
I'm talking about non-educational.
Yeah.
We can't get that directed.
So,
We can ask, but.
I mean, that's an option, but the way things are looking right now is that things are just gonna keep going up. Costs are gonna keep going up. And my concern is that next year, we're gonna be in a tough position as compared to this year. So, I thought if no one feels uncomfortable with any of the specific budgets, then do we wanna just say we can take a vote to approve the operating budget as presented?
Well, let's just go back to the point you made. I mean, are there 2 or 3 places like the vehicles for the, is there a place where you could solve the problem by simply waiting a year for a vehicle or?
That comes
That's
up,
a capital,
Capital, so it's.
that's,
That's
no,
not-
that's not, we're only talking about operating budgets, right?
You're still talking about my pocket that you take
Yeah.
taxes on. It
Yeah,
all comes out of my pocket, so
Right,
there.
yeah.
so
Well,
remember, our capital projects aren't being paid out of any of the tax levy that we're,
Right.
we're funding those through monies that we've already set aside.
Alright,
so the operating budget is what's
So
coming
the
out of your
operating-
pocket.
okay, so what operating budget things are you referring to in the highway department?
Well, she mentioned
Well,
like.
I
the street
mentioned like
sweeping.
street sweeping,
What number? What
but
number?
let me,
Highway is tab 10, yeah,
Yeah.
tab 10.
I mean, we can look at it a little closer and see.
Yeah, I just wanna see, is there something on here that?
I went through it in
Jumps out at us.
make sure. His expenses are actually going up 33%,
Could you,
whereas the salary lines are like 4.8 or something like that, but the expenses are 33%. I know a lot of that is under
After 90,
Well,
what page are you on, I'm sorry?
this is,
is,
PW.
vehicle maintenance is his
Oh,
big,
we're doing a PW one, yeah.
it's going from 25,000 to 45,000, but we know he's got some vehicle issues, so,
Yeah, the trucks are fall apart, correct.
yeah. But he will be getting 2 new trucks with the capital fund.
alright, so maybe his repairs and maintenance will go down with you.
Well, you know, the one that struck me was the street sweeping. But as JD just explained why he's,
He told me it's $250 an hour for a street sweeper, prevailing wage for an operator. It takes 4 days to sweep the town. It's $2,000 a day for a sweeper, 4 days to do it, and that's with his crew supporting them. So the guys have to go out there and they have to
with the
pick up
truck.
all the clippings. droppings and all that.
So how are we, I mean, you don't know the answer, but I guess the question is raised. How are we able to spend only 1,400 on street sweeping in 24?
Because we didn't do it.
Because it wasn't done. I
Didn't do it.
told you, our street wasn't swept.
He doesn't do it.
You know, according to JD, he only swept the streets that had oil and stone. on
Oh,
them.
okay.
Yeah, they just didn't do it. But do we want to have them do every other year? Do half the town a year? Do East Whately next year and do West Whately the following year? It's all what,
Do we,
I know, we have lots of bikers that go to Haydenville Road, there's lots and lots of bikers there.
Yeah.
I don't live in East Part of Whately, but I assume there's lots of bikers all along Plain Road and River Road.
There's a lot of bikes, we get a lot of bikers in our.
yeah, yeah,
We've all riding up that Haydenville Road.
Yeah,
do we know what anybody else does, like Conway?
I don't know.
Those questions we could before the meeting, so that we could research that one.
We didn't know we had.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'd only cut it, you cut it down by
Yeah, how much?
a couple of $1,000, right?
What part of the,
How many of
solution
these
would it
line
be?
items are funded through chapter 90 that we reimbursed for? A lot of them or none of them or?
None of this gets, that's all separate. Chapter 90 is funded, is totally separate from. the
What is that
operating
Mass DOT fair share? There's 80-something thousand there. What's that about? In this revolving fund,
budget.
but our revenue fund, we got it today. There's like 80-something thousand in there.
Fair share?
I don't know. That would be,
Those fair share is similar to chapter 90, but I don't know anything else. That,
yeah, I don't know if it's, I don't think
They
it's.
left a
specific.
whole bunch
Special
of
revenue
different-
account 455, Mass DOT fair share, $88,365. Beginning balance. Revenue 0, expense 0, balance remaining 88,365.
That's not one of the contracts. I mean, the grants that
No,
It's one of our funds.
fair share. is not.
they used to,
It's a revenue source.
they all,
There.
there were a bunch of different grants or
Hmm.
programs, I guess is a better word, through DOT. And then they lumped them all together and started calling them something. Are you looking up?
So
fair share?
theoretically, it could be applied to
I'm
the
looking if I
operating.
use that money for something.
Right,
It's offset the
Well, I
budget.
think the only way we get that money is for a specific purpose.
isn't chapter 90 just roads and repairs? It's
Yeah,
not
paving,
anything
right.
equipment wise, so. And
that's chapter 90, but this is different.
Yeah, this is different. So it is related to chapter 90. It's distributed according to the traditional chapter 90 formula. It's based on local mileage, population and employment.
Can we use it to buy road maintenance equipment?
The funds are available for use through the usual chapter 90 project request and reimbursement process. These expenditures must comply with chapter 90 and applicable local. So yeah, it follows, essentially, it's chapter 90 plus. It's just additional monies that go towards chapter 90.
So we can't use it for capital.
Oh, you can use chapter 90 for equipment, but
It doesn't always.
it's not your best
It's
use
so,
of it.
yeah, it's so expensive.
We didn't use it all this year. I see $88,000. Can we use it to buy a pickup truck? The extra pickup truck might use capital funds.
No, we'd have to ask if it's already been delegated for some project.
I asked Keith, he didn't know. I asked Garrett, he didn't know.
Oh, you did, okay. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
$88,000 sitting in the account.
It started in, it looks like it was an act of 2024 that created it.
Okay.
We got 50 grand in here for oil and stone and black and gold.
I thought that was part of the millionaire's tax. So they had the legislature, they were gonna use it to fund transportation and education. I could be wrong. I thought that was part of the whole fair share
I'll have
tax
to-
thing.
Find out if
But
that's.
can it be
already
used for
dedicated.
those two line items?
I don't know.
We have to find out whether
You
it's
got
already
50,
been
there's
dedicated.
50 grand in operating expense right there.
Yeah.
Oil and stone and hot
But
patch.
even,
It's even a 1 year, it'd be a 1 year.
even if we could fund it out of fair share, we don't remove it out of the budget. Right?
And you could use the,
Well, we don't wanna fund the budget with it. We wanna fund something capital with it.
Right,
Next
and
year
we're not
we're back
talking
to
about capital at this.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, I would use this for operating, because next year we're gonna come back for that stuff all over.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
1 year Band-Aid.
Right.
Yeah.
ARPA funds were. This would be something, if we use on the capital side, it would give us more free cash at the end of the year.
Right,
Yes,
Just saying.
well, and it does actually get calculated into the calculation,
Okay,
cause it's still money in the accounts. It's not something that we pull out of free cash, but it gets certified as an available fund or available fund that the town has.
okay.
you got $111,000 worth of highway equipment. The capital, it's not.
Same.
So I think to that point, yeah, we can look at if that, depending on what fair share restrictions are, we could look at next year. Instead of using a vehicle stabilization or free cash, we could look at using fair share.
The only thing,
But we're talking about, I guess, operating budget right now.
I hear you. The only
What would you want to know the answer and make the adjustment in this year's?
But
Rather
that,
than
it's not gonna
spending free cash.
impact the operating.
No, I understand, but
Okay.
relative to JD's point of maximizing, because I'm nervous at 162. I'd love that to be close to $250,000 free cash. So if you apply that 110,000 for the 85, so the 85,000, that'd put you at 250 in free cash. Why would we wait? Why would we buy the stuff and then maybe down the road use it?
Because the money's still there, just like any of the stabilization funds, they're still there, just like the free cash, it's still there.
Yeah.
So you
It's
do
not
have the
going
opportunity to use it. It's just in a different bucket.
Yeah.
It's essentially free cash without being called free cash. We can use it, but we'll have to use it for a highway related item.
Right, so you've got $110,000 worth of expenditure. That 85,000 goes back into free cash and you could buy $85,000 worth of stuff.
It's still free cash, right? No,
It's
No,
it's
you
not
get-
free cash, but it's essentially,
You
you're on the
wind
same.
up-
Yeah, yeah,
wind up with the equipment. And your free cash actually goes up, right? Because you've taken 85,000 out.
Correct, so you
You
take from one
reduce-
bucket instead of the other bucket.
Correct.
but
it's-
that's never,
It's, I think, it'd be nicer to go to town meeting with $250,000 in free cash than 162,000. Using something that's already set aside to do something with.
basically what you want to, you want to vote it that it's coming out of that mass fair share account. Would have to be voted that way. Cause that doesn't roll in. That
You'd
mass
have a
fair
warrant.
share.
You'd have a
You'd have a warrant article that says to use $88,000 plus.
But we never have to vote on chapter 90 expenditures. Why would
That's
we have
true.
to pay?
That's
vote on
It's
it?
That's
already-
true. Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So why don't we do that approach?
I think, can we focus on the operating budget,
Yeah.
and then when we get to capital, we can talk about the funding mechanism for capital?
Yeah.
Just to keep us focused.
All right, that's fine.
So we were talking about the highway department and how, whether we wanted to question any of these items on here at this point in time, or any budget.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm okay with what's going on with South County Senior Center. Sunderland passed an override.
Well, are we
Is it
finished
moving
with,
forward
can
with
we
us?
deal with one department?
No, but isn't that part of our operating budget?
yes,
Yes.
That's why.
yeah, so he's bringing up a valid point. We're not just looking at highway,
Oh,
we're talking about
no,
the
no, no,
the
entire.
entire.
That's what I'm about.
Yes, so to answer the question, Sunderland approved it tonight, the Deerfield has their town meeting,
Okay.
but then they still have an override vote.
Deerfield's not very good. Okay.
Yeah.
And that will be on May 19th. So we still will know by June 2nd.
Before our vote, yeah.
Okay,
And if by chance it doesn't pass in Deerfield, then we can make an amendment on town meeting floor to lower it to
okay.
the
All right.
lower amount.
I'm good with presentations we had.
Okay, so any other discussions on
So just
any
a
other
quick minute, I
budget?
just wanna make sure I understood what you guys just said. So if the senior center fails, does that solve the problem of the Smith Folk student and the,
It reduces our burden.
but I mean, does it,
Not-
does it
not
take?
double.
Not
does
double.
it doesn't.
No, because our assessment was gonna be about 40-something thousand, and
Yeah.
instead it's 80,000. So it would cut that 80,000 to not quite half, but it would bring it down, let's say 35,000. So
Okay,
it's not gonna completely cover the additional cost of the Smith Folk student.
so it's
But
not,
it will
it's not a
do a
silver bullet, but.
No.
it's a chunk
We're
of
not
it.
solving for the Smith, I don't wanna make it seem, and especially for the public purpose. Don't make it sound like it's this Smith Folk student that's creating a problem. There is no problem, it's whether or not the finance committee is okay with a budget increase of 7.44% over
Right.
the current fiscal year. With it, you've just seen a larger increase because we've suddenly had these two adjustments that
I
happened.
see where you're going.
Before we had that, you were looking at a 5.44, it was 5.44% increase over the previous budget. I just don't want anybody to feel guilty on the
No,
outside.
no, I hear how you're framing it, that's fine.
Do the other towns have the same amount of hours for their town accountant?
So it varies, like Deerfield has a full-time and a part-time, there's an assistant. I don't know what
Whately
Conway has.
Well, Sunderland was part of FERCog at one point.
Okay,
And I think they might have had like 16 hours, but I think now they have someone that's, I don't know that they're full, but they're more than 16 hours. So I think we're probably,
okay.
I don't think we're out of line.
And I'm not sure what the scope and responsibility of everyone in this building right now. But it's my understanding that there's no in this building for anyone to do the data entry or anything. There's no capacity for anyone here to do that either.
The bookkeeping,
Not,
No,
the data entry.
Yeah,
support
we used to have
administrators.
Catherine who
Oh.
did the data entry
Yeah.
and Dara who did the actual accounting. I think it also depends on the accountant, because Dara used to double check everything that Catherine did because it's her
Okay,
name on the
Sign
line,
off
so
on it,
she would
yeah.
have to
Okay.
confirm that everything that Catherine entered was accurate. So, I mean, we could see if someone was interested in doing data
And-
entry, but I don't know.
the collector's office and the accountant's office is separate.
they have to be separate so that they can reconcile against one
Yeah.
another. You can't have them do the same,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and it would, I guess, depend on who they hire as an accountant, on
Okay.
whether they would be willing to accept the work from a data entry person or not.
But the other
It could be a
big
different.
concern that I have is trying to get an applicant that's willing, that has the experience for the hours. It was very hard to find somebody at 15, and we had to go with somebody without any municipal experience because nobody was willing to take the job that had municipal experience for such a low amount of hours. So if we want quality, we unfortunately have to give them the work, otherwise they're just not
That
gonna.
makes
do it.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that we're gonna get a ton of great applicants under 24. But we do know the applicant pool has been increasing only because of just the job numbers. Accountants, from what I hear though, are still very sought after, so it could still be a difficult find.
Okay.
Yep.
So, where do we wanna go from here? It sounds like JD has made a motion pretty much to accept the operating budget as it's been submitted. Is there a second? Oh, Julie, do you have,
Well, you can second it and then we can have a discussion.
I'll second it.
okay. Discussion.
I'd like to take a look at the senior centre budget and talk about that.
But
Okay, it's just an assessment.
It's, I
What-
mean, you
what's that?
We can't.
Oh, we can't adjust that.
It's just an assessment. So there's a single dollar number.
They gave us a
So
budget.
it's $40,000, right?
No,
Increase, an
What-
increase.
yeah,
What's the average on?
tab 7.
At 7.5.
it's about a 28,000, sorry, $28,000 increase.
I thought it was a $40,000.
I was pulling the number out of my head. It's in the paper, or it's in your binder.
Like with the,
No, it's in your binder. It's tab 7. And you want to go to CRS 5. So the current, as misremembering, the current appropriation in 26 is 53,000. And the request in order to do 112 is 81,000, so a $28,000 increase.
and it's also increased from 45,000 to 53,000. No, wait a minute,
So you're looking at
other-
25.
25 to 26, there was a
There was an
Yeah.
increase, yeah,
$8,000.
yes.
So this one, I think we have to vote it up or down. Those are our only options.
Yeah.
And
And how dependent is this number? Does this number include going to the 112?
Yes.
Yes. This is the 112 budget.
Okay, and so if for some reason, some sort of magic happened and they go to the South Deerfield town offices for the senior center.
That has.
Do we know what that number?
We don't
would
have
be?
that
That's not
budget.
even gonna, yes, the only things we have to vote on right now are going to Sunderland
Yeah.
or staying the way we are. Staying with the way we are would be 46,000,
But we're not making that decision.
but that's what the other option
Yeah.
is, so
If
if
your
this
field
doesn't
fails.
pass, then this will be the budget that will overrule.
She was pretty clear about what she does with her budget, how she allocates it, what they do, their van,
Good.
senior programming they do. They've definitely
I have
have lower
no-
service level. I would like to kind of reflect that, but what she offers them is incredible.
No, I have no objection to any of that. I think that's great. It was just the question of, what's the alternative? Deerfield thinks their town offices are an alternative,
And that would be an alternative
That's-
that they could decide to bring forward,
but that's not on the table.
but that's
right now.
not on the table right now.
No town has voted on that.
Right, no, it's really been discussed there.
Right. I'm pulling up the senior center budget for 22 Amherst Road. If they stay at the current location, it's just for some reason.
What do they do?
It's not a page.
And
Well,
so she did give us.
She gave it to
Yeah.
us, yeah.
An old.
I don't know that anybody put that in there. Yeah,
This one had 46,800.
Yeah.
so if, this is where I got the 40,000. If they stay at 22 Amherst Road, the budget instead would be 46,223
Oh, versus 53,000.
versus 81,000.
Oh, for the next year.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're right, so
Yeah.
So about a $35,000 cut from the current request.
My concerns about this and with this bill are again, a commercial kitchen, but really think about this now. That's, they want to put in a commercial kitchen for 225,000 next year. maybe.
No, so actually, we did get an update. I didn't share this yet, but we did get an update
Yeah,
today.
let's talk about it.
I
Oh.
mentioned it because I was on the email. I
Oh,
put
yeah,
it
yeah,
from you and I said, well, I just repeat this, but
Yeah.
it's from.
Yeah, so they won't need to actually make the request for that dollar amount for the kitchen, because they can actually, the improvements are under budget right now. That they can do the kitchen as part of the current improvement.
So
Now,
the
so
question
Jerry
I-
is a little concerned
The
about
question I
that.
have with that is that we've been told. If it's $250,000 or whatever the number is, don't worry about that because you're surrounded by schools. That update their facilities all the time, relative to kitchens. And down the road, maybe we can get components of it. And so the fact that the renovation budget is now lower, oh, let's go get a kitchen and spend the money, why not stay with the plan of, you don't have a kitchen now. And you're supposed to get one in the future, well, why spend $250,000 into your operating lease? That the three towns have to absorb.
Well, they're gonna, even if they were to take on those kitchen place items from the other schools.
Yeah.
They have to be, put out as, what's the phrase? When you don't need an item.
Oh, surplus.
Surplus property. They still have to buy it. They still have to buy it from the district or whatnot. It's
The count,
gift.
the schools can't gift it to a nonprofit,
You can't donate,
okay.
right?
You have to declare it surplus property.
And it has to
There's
go
a whole
out.
bunch of different steps you can do with it.
But my understanding was that was a legitimate, whatever the mechanics
You
is.
might be able to
Or
donate
are.
it because
It
As long
was
as
not
it's
a,
Deerfield.
not a problem.
it was. We're all members of the same agreement. So it'd be more or less an interdepartmental transfer of.
Only, right, as long as it was a kitchen of one of ours.
Right.
No, no,
I
no,
agree.
You're talking like UMass is gonna give it to us, or?
Oh, then,
Yeah.
then we
Joyce
have,
indicated she thought the colleges.
You can't just donate it, it has to be declared surplus and you have to put it up for
From the
sale.
colleges?
Yes,
Even
and
if
so
they're
you can buy
private-
it at a lower rate,
Even if they're private colleges?
no, private college, no. Private college,
Mass,
possibly,
yeah.
like UMass is the public.
Right,
They're supposed to declare surplus property and all that other stuff.
I guess,
I have to say, this sounds like a lot of wishful thinking to me. I just reject the idea that, oh, somebody's gonna give us a kitchen.
that's how it was sold to me. I just
I
expressed what I.
don't buy it. I just don't, I'm sorry.
But that's where the dollar
No,
amount for the kitchen is knowing that they're gonna have to buy likely used. Commercial grade kitchen items.
Well, see, that's a different spin, and the question would be how much is that likely to cost? This idea that you're somehow gonna be given something made.
Right, so
It
that,
doesn't make any sense.
so
to
what's
me.
happening there then is by absorbing it into the lease, you don't have to expenditure down the road, you've gotta go back to the towns for it, so we need more money to buy that kitchen.
Right,
That's what's going on.
So there won't be a phase
They're
two.
factoring it into the cost of the lease now. It used
So
to be
factoring what into the?
the commercial kitchen,
Yes,
and I'm saying, they don't have one now.
right,
If they get one down the road, I guess there's two ways to do it. The amount of the lease could go up at
Right.
that time.
right.
That
Or they
would
could get
avoid-
lucky and get something to give them one.
Yeah, but I think what's going on is, it sounds to me like it's a way to avoid having to have a capital expenditure outlay at some point in time.
Yeah.
Versus it's amortized in the lease with a 5% return
I hear you.
on the invested capital. So it's kind of awkward, and it's news to me, so it's.
Yeah, I don't, right.
I question, everything has a, so Smith College is getting rid of equipment that's exceeded their.
It's,
That's a good process.
Very good point, JD.
But also, what is the scale of this commercial kitchen? Like, a commercial kitchen has to have a 3-bay sink. For hand washing, for a hand washing sink and a 3-bay sink for washing dishes. That's a commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
Are we putting,
All that.
are we putting in, a fry layer with a hood and an Ansel system? Are we putting in a microwave? Are we putting in a range? Like,
Yeah, what are
how
we
extensive
doing?
is this commercial kitchen? And is there any grant funding available if we're gonna get into providing seniors for meals?
Right,
Could we get some grants to fund some of that?
there you go.
We possibly could, if some Meals on Wheels or something like that, we might be able to get some grant to fund those improvements.
Right.
What's that, the amount of the lease on that new building? I can't see it.
it included a number of different items because it wasn't just lease. It did,
What's the lease plus renovation? And now the commercial kitchen's getting lumped into renovations.
Yeah, but what's gonna be the monthly or the yearly rent on this building?
I believe it was
I'm trying to.
25,000, trying to say.
Yeah, it was 14 or 16,000 a month, right?
Let's.
I think it was 10,000 for the base lease. And then it was
Well,
gonna have
phase plus the renovations.
right,
Yeah.
those base
Back to my-
lease was
my
10,000.
point about paper.
10,000, did you say?
A month.
Base.
Plus the cost of amortized renovations.
Keep in mind, Julie,
At a
that
5%
building a
return.
new senior center,
What,
building a new senior center.
only $16 million, yes.
That's.
Yeah.
I did have that, I'm trying to find the.
But you know, I wonder how long people will be happy in this building, because the elevator, you know, is small.
It can only hold 4 people,
Um,
but they're gonna have
and then,
the people that need elevators go to the ground floor or the lower level,
all right,
which both have. You get this.
there's not gonna be any gym facilities in this building. People are only gonna go there for lectures or to have private meetings, and
No, they go for exercise classes.
classes, yes.
Like they do at Whately.
Yeah, but wouldn't people like to go to a gym? I mean, if you're gonna do it.
I don't think a gym
And
is
so
ever
like,
discussed.
well, also people go to Northampton Senior Centre. People in Whately is as close to go to the Northampton Senior Centre as it is to go to the other side of Sunderland.
Oh, not close.
What?
It's from Whately to Sunderland. Well, it's a 5-minute ride.
No, it's not from where I live.
Oh, it's not that far. It's only like 4 or 5 miles.
It's
away.
It's 10 to 15 minutes.
Sure, it's a little frosty, but Northampton with the redesigned Main Street, it's gonna take an hour and a half to get
You
there.
don't have to go to the main street to go to the.
So,
Oh,
So-
the thing is,
So Julia, I'm completely in sympathy with where you're going with this,
It's
Don't get me wrong, but we have a motion on the table.
yes,
Yeah.
And we keep them together. Could we do one or the other? I'm not quite sure how to do that.
we also have buses,
We're in the discussion phase.
we also,
Motions.
we also have
Okay.
a senior center bus, they'll bring people to the senior center.
the what?
We have a senior center bus,
Van,
van, two.
yeah.
And it is
I saw that.
is the requirements on that bus going to jump when we go to Sunderland? I mean, now people walk in the center of Whately to have their exercise, they're gonna have to jump on that bus.
So it's already a 3-town.
The transportation is sufficient to cover the needs of moving to Sunderland? That's a fact.
Is the van used for that? I thought the van was used to help seniors with appointments.
and
Yeah.
that
I don't think they'll pick people up to take them.
Oh, I thought that was part of the
Exercise.
reason for the transportation.
No,
Like,
no, I
yes.
believe it's for like doctor's appointments.
Field trip.
Oh, it's what
Field
the
trips.
Whately
Yeah.
Friends does. It depends.
I mean, Valley Neighbors.
But that was
The
neighbors.
neighbors, they can do that, yeah.
I mean, actually, Valley Neighbours could take someone from Whately
So
to.
that could be a request, that's true. Okay, I'm just trying to pull together where the discussion of the seniors, how the senior center budget discussion dovetails into your motion. It,
I don't, we either
why are we talking about the senior
this
center?
budget or not approve it.
Yeah.
The question, are we going to approve this budget? This,
So it's one of the items, so you're saying, okay.
That's what the
That's-
finance.
But I thought your motion was to approve them all.
That's how. we
That's
do
the
it.
motion.
Yeah.
to
We-
approve
we
The
the
don't-
motion is to approve them all?
We don't up or down every single thing, it's one budget.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That's what his motion is.
But I, believe me, I'm in sympathy with what you're talking about, that's all I'm saying.
We all are gonna have to make some sacrifices here and there, we're gonna feel strong
Yeah,
one way
right.
or the other, but
well,
when we get town meeting.
I think the
40
thing
days.
is too, I mean, I'm not really in favor of this senior center, I have to tell you, you probably gather. But I do think, they've been trying hard to get something where they can all work together. I don't think very many people in Whately use that. I think people in Whately who do, there are no classes there that I'm interested in taking. I want to go and exercise or I want to, so I'll go to the Y. But there are a lot of people who can't afford to do these things.
Right.
And I think probably that's why we need to pass them.
So there is a motion and a second to approve all the operating budgets as presented. Any other discussion?
This is, I just have a question, just to clarify, it's with the 2.5 COLA, the.
With,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
everything, yes, presented. So all those in favor?
Right.
Okay, it looks unanimous. So we passed the operating budget. Now we gotta go on to the capital.
Then we do what?
Capital.
Capital.
Could I just one little addendum to what we just did? That one first.
The vote already happened.
So I'm saying if Deerfield votes down the senior center,
Then you go to the baseline.
basically, what does that
I'll
bring back to
come-
us?
Well, we're gonna have to see. If the special or if the town meeting votes it down, I might ask if we do a FinCom meeting and then we amend the budget so that we can put it into the warrant with the revised number. Otherwise, we just keep the number as is, and on the town meeting floor, we have finance say we're presenting an amendment to this. The moderator asks if they'll accept it, and the amendment is a reduced budget with that.
And with the assumption that they would stay in the same building. that they're in.
Right.
Yep,
The discussion of the Deerfield town,
It's
office,
not a
that's
discussion.
not even,
it's not a discussion.
That's not.
I think it'd be a lot
I just
easier to
wanted to.
have another meeting than try and do that at town meeting with amendment.
The problem
Kind of raise
is,
questions.
we have a very short
Oh,
window
the
to
window.
close the warrant and post it.
Yes,
Ah,
So
Yeah.
you need a second,
There
so
are other pieces in play than just finance committee.
I get you.
you have to post it 7 days.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
and you have to have it earlier than that.
Correct, I needed to
Oh,
finalize it with the council, just to make sure everything's tied up. And
Right.
the board, the select board has to say, yes, they.
Okay, shall we move on to capital? Okay, last
So
meeting
that's-
I had presented a little draft version of, and he has included those, my little draft version
And you
on this,
Yeah,
on this newest sheet.
if you want, the easiest way to see it is probably looking,
I've got current.
an easier way to see it with bigger font. Is if you go into the booklet,
Oh,
the green page booklet,
Okay,
this is the handout that will be given. And we do have in here. I believe I have the capital projects listed. Oh,
No,
they're
you
not
didn't,
listed.
They're listed, but they're just with the recommendation, not the funding source.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh.
yeah,
That is listed in the town meeting warrant. On
well, on page
page,
9 is the one you were looking at.
Well, actually, the one that you did last time, Len, is clear.
if you look at page 12,
oh,
of the
I
town
did a
meeting
bigger
warrant.
Yeah.
version last
You-
time,
Yes.
and you just took the information off of there.
This is a super helpful summary. Could we just drop in a column? It's just say source,
Probably,
and then it would tie back.
yeah, we'll talk about the booklet next, or at point
Don't you?
That's
E. I wanna keep you focused. I always have to rank Jerry in.
ABCI. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, it should have been E. I don't know why I did that.
Okay, so.
But yeah, if you look at page 12, unless somebody else wants to do this process. Page 12 of the warrant, it's bigger print, so that you can see each of the capital projects and where they're funded from.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Article 17 is the project for the property survey for FY 26, and then Article 18 is FY 27 projects.
the roof replacement in this booklet is different than what says on the page here, 25 and 40.
Is it?
Yeah,
Let's see.
because the guy that originally gave it, it wasn't prevailing wage, so they got another investment. It was actually like 30 or 39,000.
It was like 23 before though,
So it wasn't prevailing wage.
right, and it's now at 40.
It's just under 40, I think.
But I have it in the spreadsheet at 40,000.
Yeah,
But I'm saying this,
Oh, in the booklet.
oh,
it says 25.
Okay,
We take 23.
yeah, there were quite a few things I don't.
no, you're right.
Right here.
No, in a different. Well, let's talk about
Let's
the
all
booklet when we get to the
Look to
book.
the warrant. That would be the easiest.
On this one, it says.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, on the article 18 on.
I don't know.
Let's do that. So these are the ones that I had presented the last time. Minus, these are the actual projects, minus the money that I'm putting towards stabilization on our sheets, so. That doesn't.
Can I make a comment here?
Yeah.
Why did the police have to have a new corridor up again? Couldn't we do it over a 3-year period?
We do, yeah, I think it is
Instead of
covered.
2, no, it's not. It's
No, it's 3.
3 cars over a 6-year period, so they replace it every 2 years. Right, so why can't they give us an additional year?
We jumped a year because they weren't making that hybrid cruiser anymore, and we couldn't get it when we wanted to. That's why we jumped up a year for the last car.
But if, it strikes me that if they've only got 70,000 miles on this vehicle, I don't understand why they're.
It's not about mileage.
I don't
remember.
It's wear and
understand.
tear on the vehicle.
Yeah, but why are they running it all the
They
time?
have to.
Because they can't wait for it to warm
Yeah,
up if there's an
exactly.
emergency.
They can't shut the car off.
Correct. It has to be left running, so it actually creates wear on the vehicle when it's idling.
Yeah, we're already doing
Like when a
that.
fire truck leaves the building, it doesn't shut off until it comes back to.
I think they should use a different model or a different make of vehicle that would last a bit longer.
But Jim Savine said this was,
Very limited
he said,
choices.
very limited choices, this was the only one with this, because Paul asked on an electric. We already have a
That was
hybrid
a
car.
very good response, yeah.
Right.
What we used to do is the chief's car, the one he drives most of the time, we do every 3 years.
Mhm.
But the actual cars that are out on patrol, we do every 2 years.
He's replacing his car, which is a 2017. So his
So
car
his
is.
is-
not
His is,
patrol.
yeah, so they have the patrol cars, they're 1 and 2, then it's the chief car, and then it's the detail car.
So they,
The patrol cars that Ben replaced.
One thing that I noticed in the revenue account, we made $340 in revenue on renting out the traffic car this past year. It's coming here. I think he needs to charge more per hour for that detail car, because I don't know if $340 to cover gas, tires and stuff for that car. Cause he passes it off that car pays for itself, but I don't know if $340 covers those expenses.
Would-
It could be, but I question
most
that.
of the time, they
None of
don't
it's a
even
detail.
use one of the cruisers for detail though.
This was just the detail car. They
Yeah,
don't
we got
got
a
a car.
detail car. It's
Yeah, when they
like the
replace the cruisers, it becomes.
before, supposedly.
I don't see it very, whenever they're doing detail, it's usually.
You can't tell them apart.
It's
All
usually,
the same to me.
well, it's usually, Edwin Zanieski or somebody, it was his car, it was, well, Edwin's not on it anymore, but it was his car that was sitting there all the time, rather than a detail car, so. I don't know,
I think he needs to adjust his rate. Everyone ask about that the next time around, but.
And that is an operating discussion point,
Yeah.
yeah. But valid for operating, especially next year.
okay,
I had a question about the sick time buyback. I'm fine with that, but is this gonna be a trend with all employees in the future?
School,
Only
it's
school?
only school because contractually they have to add in their CBA.
There's no cap or no limit?
I'm not sure what it likely is, it's the sick time buyback is for those retiring. That have and I think it's based on this year, there's 4 retirees.
Right.
Last year was 5 or 6, which is why the
but
buyback
they,
was
and they
higher.
get paid for 3 or 4 years or something over. They get
Okay.
their sick time paid over
Because
3
Keith
or 4
and
years
Dougie
time.
left last year and we had a buyout there.
And that's just one, that's just the
That's a
one.
one time.
Yeah.
But like, in my business, they get 40 hours, use it or lose it. And they don't get the buyback and it's capped and it's.
All part of the
That doesn't happen in the municipal, right? It just can.
I love.
I'm
No, ours-
fearful of an employee, I'm
So I
at
can-
900 hours of sick time.
Because we can't
We have a
control the
list.
school CBA, but we can control our personnel policy, and our personnel policy does cap.
It does.
Our
cap.
sick times,
So what's the
yes.
cap of that? Is it a?
We're not funding it because we don't have any, but
Seven,
I wanted-
720,
Or something like that.
something
Definitely
like
seven.
that, yeah.
but when you retire, you don't get it all back.
Yeah, but maybe it's-
You only get 1 day for each year of service.
Okay.
So you have to have,
So,
720 hours?
I think that's the amount of sick time that you can accumulate.
Do you get paid out for vacations, use it or lose it?
Vacation, if you leave and you have vacation on the books, you get paid that.
I thought there was a cap on what could carry it over though.
There is a
There
cap
is a
on
cap.
carryover, 80 hours,
On vacation.
That's it.
but that's a carryover from one
Not sick
fiscal
time.
year to the
Sick
next.
time, you can carry over as much until you can hit the
Hit that
cap of
cap.
700.
So when you retire, you can safely get that max sick time and 80 hours of vacation.
Hey, you can't get the max sick time because unless you've been here 100 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does,
So-
did you get personal time too? Do those carry over? or-
Those you lose.
Those you lose.
They get bought out or no? Use it or lose it? Okay.
But the sick time is 1 day per year of service, so if you work for 20.
Yeah.
20 years, you get times 8, be 160 hours worth of sick time. Even if you had 700 accumulated, you'd only get the 160.
Okay.
And prior to 5 years ago, I think, maybe 6 years ago, you didn't get anything. They changed that to,
Just going down this path, though, we should expect that every year we're gonna have a little bit of school.
yeah,
By
and I don't understand why that's in their budget. They should-
Because the reason they explained was instead of seeing a fluctuation in the budget,
I
move this
know.
out. And so that you can see it separate from it,
Yeah.
and then you can fund it some other way rather than through an operating expense that you then are essentially raising through taxation.
So it's for 42.
But technically, it's an operating expense of school.
It is, yeah.
So, okay, so anybody wanna make a motion on these
Can I ask
capital
a question?
items?
The transfer, the three transfer to stabilization,
Yeah,
which is coming out of petty cash, is it necessary to do that, given the balances that are in each of those accounts? Which would then again push your free cash remaining up over 200K. 230? Is there a requirement that you have to
no,
transfer
no,
money into free cash, into stabilization fund?
no, but we are taking out of those funds. So I'm just trying, I was recommending trying to put a little bit something back into it.
I guess my question then would be, are we comfortable with $162,000 worth of free cash? Knowing that you're putting 60,000 into stabilization funds, or do we do that transfer next year with better situation?
You hope for,
Well,
you hope, yeah.
It's up to what people wanna do.
How much should we pay, take out of free cash to buy down the tax rate?
200.
I'm okay with the capital stuff,
And the transfer?
you know.
The transfers,
It's.
you'll talk about when we go through the warrant, because there's separate articles.
I know, it's just on it, I'm looking at it on this page.
Yeah, but we're talking, so essentially, yeah, all of it's gonna be, but we do have transfers separated out when we go through. In item C, all of the articles, you're gonna talk about each one, which is all the transfers are separate article items.
I understand. I'm just asking the
Okay.
concept question for the group.
Yeah, I see the highway, we went over the trailer, the truck, we need the roof that's leaking, active, police department's gotta get fixed. Jim needs a police cruiser, it's on the schedule. The security and furniture, I didn't understand why that wasn't part of the senior county's budget, but okay.
And that's not even relevant if it gets voted down by the grounds.
And the Carpets Elementary School, we need to keep putting a little bit of money in that school every year. There's so many projects there. We need to keep. Correct. I toured that building a couple times. The need is there. We need to do a little bit every year. It's just gonna wash over us.
But conceptually, if you have that motion to use, well, we find out, we can use that 85,000. This free cash to go up.
It would, I guess. It's still the same pocket, but yeah.
Right. So better to have it.
Do you want a motion, Lynn? Or no, what do you want?
Yes.
I make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the capital projects as recommended.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other
And
discussion?
just a question, when Garrett was here, it's got mentioned, but there was this idea of using a different funding mechanism.
Right,
Forget the exact name we used. Where is that at? Is that,
You're talking about the lease program.
is the lease program happening? It's not happening?
It's not, because that would be an operating budget and not a capital.
And we have to pay the interest on that.
Yeah.
At a hefty interest rate. So if we can fund it without paying the interest, that'd be beneficial right
Then
now,
why is Hatfield love it?
because they're broke. They're right at the limit and they need to do it to fund their stuff.
I think it's something that is worth looking at, but I don't believe that we have enough information to
Okay.
say we're gonna make that
That's
shift
fine with
this
me.
fiscal year.
Okay.
and
But
I,
if Garrett wants to, he should come probably ahead of time to
Yeah.
finance to kind of think it through more like in November before we even go
That
into
would be great.
budget season.
I would rather see a debt exclusion like we did on the wood chipper and the excavator for bigger stuff.
other thing with that program is it keeps their funding at a
Right.
levels,
That's kind of why I was
and
asking.
it's easier to predict. I think if, to JD's point, if they're struggling trying to meet their budgetary requirements, having a level kind of
Yeah,
a
that's
capital expense,
highly desirable.
even though it's part of the operating budget, is beneficial to
Yeah.
them, so.
Okay,
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the capital items. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Right.
Okay, no opposed, everybody raise their hands, so that. Okay. I lost my head. Okay. Oh, the warrant article, okay.
So we'll go through one by one, every article that finance needs to provide a recommendation on. So the very first article is 6, which is setting the limits, the spending limits on to the revolving funds. All of these spending limits are the current FY 26 spending limits. There was no request from any of the departments to increase their spending ceiling. All revolving funds are funded through permit fees, inspectional fees. They're not funded out of operating, so it's monies that they're taking in through fees that they charge to either users or residents, that then go into an account. Their use of these funds help them to pay for their operating expenses so that they don't have to ask for higher operating.
so so the director of the library could just pull money whenever she wants, as an
For
example.
certain purposes.
For search purposes,
There's
yeah,
a bylaw out there for each one of these.
yes.
Oh, okay.
That tells what you can actually use that money for, like the dog licensing is to actually. The dog license fees go into that account, but then that money can be used to buy the licenses and the tags and, dog food or whatever. The animal control officer can
Yeah.
also use that one.
But if she wants to replace the windows in the library, she's not using the resolver.
Not as a revolving.
Not for $1,000.
Yeah, her limit is $1,000, so.
Yeah.
I make a motion to recommend a town meeting favorably, Article 6, establish revolving fund spending limits.
Okay, motion and second, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Do we wanna make a motion on all of them separately on the finance articles? Or do we wanna do one, go through all of them? in
Yeah.
One motion?
I
A
like
good
that.
point.
Okay.
Yeah, if there is one after we go through that the board, that the committee is unsure about, we could take that one out. And then somebody can make a motion to vote favorable on all.
It'll just be easier.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll do with the slightly. So Article 7 is the setting the COLA, which is, well, setting the pay rates for all elected positions. This represents a 2.5% COLA on the previous approved rates.
Good.
Any questions on this article?
Nope.
Article 8 is the water.
Do we need to vote?
No, we're gonna do it as one.
Oh,
That's what Jeff is at.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Article 8 is the water operating budget. Don't reference the numbers in here. The water operating budget, I believe this should be accurate to what we gave you. Actually, I'm positive if this number is, the water operating budget is what was represented in your tab 15.
That sounds
Oh, it's not because I had to do.
It does. Wake up your number.
So it's not representative of what we gave you because of the adjustment that happened to the accountant. The water department pays a portion, so it's actually 331,088.18 for their FY 27. Which represents a 4.14 increase over their FY 26 expenses.
331, what?
331,088.18.
And are they collecting and everything? And are they meeting their last year's budget requirements, the water department? They've always kind of.
I didn't look at their the budget to actual report for them. But we could take that outside of this. Yep,
I was just curious if you knew if there was anything going on with that.
I haven't looked at it.
Okay.
Any other questions on water operating budget? The next article 9 you've already voted on is the operating budget for the town. All of those numbers will be updated.
Big number, this was a particular town meeting with maybe 59%, but that's because of the agent they hired.
Sorry, what?
But the Concom going up 59%, but that's because of the shared.
Yes.
Action agent.
Yeah, well, we already.
Scott Jackson does it from that,
We already did.
I know we did, but it's like, that's gonna go. for-
Article 10. Article 10 is closing of the ambulance stabilization fund and transferring those remaining funds to free cash. All of 2150, though that number is probably even changed now. The way it's worded is 2150 plus any accrued interest.
Yeah, I
like that.
We accrue additional interest, probably cents. Any questions on Article 10? Article 11 is approval of prior fiscal year bills totaling about $1,400. Water department, legal services, and treasure collectors, shredding services, paper shredding. Any questions on Article 11? Article 12, this is one of the transfer requests. This is to transfer 200,000 of free cash to reduce the tax levy. Any questions on that one? 13,
Is this kind of a one-time thing?
no,
This, really?
we've done it the past number of years.
Good.
Last year we did 300,000. Year before that was like 225. I believe the past 2 years before that were 225.
Okay.
It's a way to, when we have excess free cash, use it to help reduce the.
Yeah, great.
13 is a transfer of free cash to the capital students. So this goes to Jerry's questions earlier. The next 3 are moving free cash into 3 different stabilization funds. 13 is for capital, 14 is for vehicle, and 15 is for building. 20,000 for each. So the question is that Jerry brought up, is it better to not do these transfers and leave them in free cash?
What's the advantage of doing the transfers?
Well, we set aside the money for that explicit use. It can
Oh,
only be used
it can
for,
only be used for that.
correct,
Free cash, it could be used for anything.
to offset the operating budget.
So in order to move money from the building stabilization fund into something that isn't, would you have to have a town meeting? Yeah.
Any money into or out of a stabilization fund must be voted on by.
Well, how much money will there be in the stabilization bill?
Over on the right
Yep,
balances.
the far right.
Right.
So that's.
Of the
these are
long
with
sheet.
The,
General stabilization is 411,000, capital is 218, stabilization.
That's with the
28.
transfers.
Stabilization's 50.
Well, why is this even being considered?
We normally transfer money from free cash into these stabilization
This
funds
is a
every
normal
year,
way.
just to
just to build those accounts.
build those accounts.
But it really doesn't materially affect the transfer of money to the application, right? If it's in the stabilization fund or free cash, we can use it.
Well,
why
if it's
try
in
our
free cash, it goes away on June 30th.
Uh,
But if you vote to transfer it into a stabilization, it's there.
Oh,
Free
Doesn't
cash
go
gets
away.
recertified though.
Right.
It doesn't
Well, it goes away for
It'll
like 3
fluctuate,
months.
yeah.
But it comes, we don't have to have a special meeting to allocate the funds.
No, but it would put you 60K closer next year to the 200,000 you want to transfer to keep your taxes down. Versus it disappears into these funds until there's a specific need to pull the money for a purpose that has to be voted at town meeting.
We're also
So
very
it's-
concerned with what our revenue is going to be expected, we exceed that, so that builds up the free cash.
And you don't have to transfer into all of these. If you feel
Yeah.
comfortable with a 199,000 or $197,000 capital stabilization, don't transfer the 20,000.
Right.
The only one I would kind of lean towards transferring is the vehicle stabilization, so you at least have something in there.
Because otherwise
But the
it would
other
be-
two, I just put them in because it's something we've done over the years.
Right.
But if you felt so inclined as to not do that, then that's fine too.
Is there any disadvantage to leaving it in free cash?
The disadvantage is to Lynn's point, at June thirtieth, you can't touch free cash.
Yes,
Until November, when it essentially November, when it gets certified. Whereas if the money is in stabilization, we can use it during that time period because it's been set aside. It's definitive, we can do a special town meeting to appropriate out of those stabilization
Right.
funds.
Right, but we're buying vehicles out of capital.
Yeah.
Now, so you're not gonna touch the vehicle stabilization between now and then. And you've got plenty of operating cash. In everything except building stabilization.
Yeah, there's
If you needed
funds
operating
in
cash.
general
General
stabilization.
stabilization,
Yeah,
got a lot.
Just a suggestion, okay.
well,
The other alternatives, if nothing comes up, we could schedule a special town meeting in before June 30th and do transfers then.
the only problem is. A special town meeting has to be posted 2 weeks before, so that we have to worry about that time limitation,
Right.
so we have to make that decision. In early June, to then hold a special at the end of June.
Are you concerned we're out free cash?
You know, what struck me was what was it, $1.5 million that, not Hadley,
South Hadley.
South Hadley had in their free cash. Huh?
Yeah, but let's also look at South Hadley has a significantly larger operating budget than we do.
Correct.
50 something million, right? I
Yeah.
forget what their operating budget is, multitudes compared to
So it's
us.
50 mil compared to ours, so it's
And ours is
7 times.
Also, a lot of these communities use ARPA for, so their operating budgets,
Yeah, but you don't wanna be on that.
but a lot of these communities did.
They did, and that's why it was bad, because now they have to catch up, yeah.
Yeah,
And I thought it was interesting that they had so much in free cash and they weren't putting any of that towards this debt.
to Peter's point though, their budget is 10 times the size of ours.
Right,
Well, the other point, Pete, that you've made is the calculation of revenue that will drive free cash. I think last time you said it's typically about this level, and then it jumps up once you reconcile really closer to $1 million every year.
Well, 800,000.
Or
yeah, 800.
800 grand every year.
And we're conservative on the assessed values only going up 2.5%. So,
The new growth is the scary part. Cause there really hasn't been
yeah,
much building in.
There won't be a $125,000, $30,000 drawdown next year out of free cash for all these vehicles.
But there'll be a, loader or whatever. it was.
Yeah, there is that.
Now,
Is that grant? You don't bring it back grant?
grant for what?
The loader, Carolyn was pursuing grant?
I-
No, she's pursuing.
We haven't applied for anything yet.
Oh,
Nothing's been applied for.
I thought Garrett reported they did.
I wrote it down that there was a grant.
She was writing in for a grant from some dirt roads fund or something.
Oh, the unpaved roads.
There's a grant fund available.
Yeah, they did that, but every town ended up seeking the same thing, which was capital investment. And so FERCog has to go back again and they're gonna reevaluate because they can't fund it that way.
Okay,
Okay, so what's the recommendation on these capital?
These
$20,000?
transfers.
Do we wanna do them or?
And these are things we usually do.
Yes,
We usually
We
do.
usually do these things.
yeah, you don't have to, but yeah, they are standard operating.
I'm good moving it into the stabilization fund, so I understand the position Gary's coming from. But also we can we can transfer funds if we have to, we still have that mechanism. So I make a motion to approve it as,
You can't transfer it out into free cash once you're.
No, you can't transfer it out into free cash, but you can spend your general stabilization.
we're gonna spend the general
Anything.
cash. I think we do need to have little pockets of savings, just like you put some money every week in your.
Right.
So,
Say if it ain't broke. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. This is what we've done and that's kind of worked. Let's keep doing it.
Okay. All right, then moving on. Article 16 is the use of free cash for that sick leave buyback for the school department. It's 40,000. Any questions on that one? Article 17. Oh, we already did the Article 17 and 18. Right. Article 19. These are, this is a CPA, so FinCom doesn't touch CPA items, so nothing on 19, nothing on 20, 21, 22, 23, yes. FinCom doesn't weigh in on bylaw amendments. So miscellaneous, so it's, yeah, it's 27, it's the senior tax program. This is to establish a senior tax work-off program. With a maximum reduction of $1,200 in a given year, would be operated by the Board of Assessors. For only those that are over 60. Any questions on that program? They essentially budget for that offset.
There's an income cap, it's not mentioned here, I don't know what it is.
There
Should be
is,
included. I know.
it would only be included in the note, it can't be included in the article, but yeah. We can add it into the note.
Got it.
And this is brand new to Whately, because.
It's allowed statewide, you have to accept essentially. MGL chapter 59, we're looking at section 5K, there's also a. Different tax programs for veterans, but we're specifically looking at 5K, but it's Whately's first time considering.
And many towns do this.
Yeah.
It's very common, but.
It is. I personally I'm only leery about it because it becomes an administrative burden.
It is.
Where we
Yeah,
then have to,
probably
we have to track the seniors, their working hours, we have to find work for them to do that is clerical in nature.
Data entry.
That has to then be that has to be checked. We then have to now have a computer that we have to buy for them to go and do the work.
And there's confidentiality. issues,
Yeah.
So you can't.
So why we put it, why we bring it on?
Because the board of assessors voted that they want to bring this forward, so
Oh, I
it's warrant for the town to decide.
And there are a lot of jobs that, stuffing tax bills, that kind
Yeah.
of thing that people could actually do the work
The dog
on. So
license
they're
program.
and that's a little harder because you
dog
don't know when
license
someone's gonna come
But
in
there's
for
a
a dog license.
That there's a state, you have to do the state computer in order to do that, right? No,
Just
They're always a local,
local
yeah.
program. It's just,
Well, they can
you
mail
never
out
know when the
the
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know when they're gonna be coming in for a dog tag, so.
But do you have to accept everybody, any?
No, there's a,
There's an-
so,
Yeah.
there's not just an income cap, there's also a participant number.
Yeah.
They would only do, I think it's either 4 or 5 people per year.
We should put that in that note too. That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can you turn someone down?
Yeah. Because there's a number of applicants.
Oh, a lot of people.
20 people can apply, but they have a set limit because they basically, the Board of Assessors are setting a budget that they're only going to allow for, I believe it's 5, so 5 times that is 6,000.
Right.
So they've set understanding that they'll lose $6,000 in revenue, tax revenue, by allowing 5 people into this program. So even if 20 people apply, only 5, and they'll do.
Yeah, but supposing only 3 people apply,
Then they're
and
going
you
to do.
turn any of them down for any reason.
If they don't meet the requirements, yes,
But
like income, age,
That's it.
yes, yep.
I don't know.
You can't limit, is there something else that you would like to limit
You
them?
can't discriminate.
Well.
Yeah,
But
Can't
yeah,
discriminate.
you can't discriminate, so I'm curious what you would wanna go and deny them.
I don't know. Supposing you thought someone was not, is not capable of doing the job. I don't mean discriminating, but.
They're not applying for a drop.
Whatever it is.
I don't know, because it's clerical in nature that anybody should be able to do it regardless of disabilities or things like that,
Right.
because you can't
So does,
discriminate based on those things.
Right.
so the flow is the town decides we could use 4 people to do X, and we're gonna post those job openings, and then people apply for those?
Nope.
How does it work? What's the process?
The town says we're doing a senior tax work-off program.
That's what I mean.
And then the Board of Assessors says, okay, we're doing a tax work-off program. Here's the application to apply. When they get the applicants, they say we're only accepting 4 or 5 that year. So they then identify those 4 or 5, and then they say, okay, departments, we now have 5
Oh,
senior.
so there isn't
program-
a job
what can they-
description
No,
associated.
no, they're not a job, applying for a job.
Any
The
job.
departments can say, oh, I could use.
We could
somebody
bounce
to
them
do-"
around. They could be in a different department every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's only a couple hours a week, I think.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, they could do
limited.
it all in 1 or 2 weeks or whatever.
Right.
Cause it's $15 an hour, so it's based on that $15 an hour, so 12.
So should you put in did you already say this, the income?
It is already stated that it's,
Isn't
No, there's no income
no,
mentioned. But I think putting total number of positions approved by the assessors.
Have
The
they
income
created
cap
that yet?
and
So-
how
yeah,
many,
yeah.
Yeah.
how many hours would be helpful for everybody to see. So it's 1,200 hours, and you said it's 15 an hour, right?
It's either 12 or 15, but I do have that in their outline.
And where does the money come from to pay it?
So they already set their budget knowing that they're gonna have.
So they got a line already in the
Yeah.
budget for this,
Yeah. They have an
And
outlay
you already approved it.
or an overlay or whatever it is.
we already.
So don't talk about it. If I were to be Pete.
No, I mean, it's not that you don't talk about it, it's
No, I
that
just-
it's budgeted for.
Yeah, yeah.
If the program doesn't get approved, they're not gonna use that line item in their budget, their budget now is excess.
Yeah.
That would only be,
I-
So $6,000, right?
Yeah.
Off the tax revenue.
Correct.
Okay, so. We have all of those articles. Are we recommending all of them, or is there a motion to recommend?
I move, we recommend all.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Alright, so the next item, I'm just seeking feedback. This booklet is provided alongside the warrant. We didn't do one last year, but I got reminded that it is something because I didn't know about it, so. The booklet includes a budget message from me. All of the yellow highlights are notes to myself of things that have to be revised based on whatever we're gonna be voting on. So that's why you see a lot of yellows or X's. They were just placeholders.
So I found a couple of things.
Sure.
Under the Whately budget, I wouldn't put in the benefits and insurance line under, unless you, I would, if you're gonna do it, put it for central office.
Sorry.
What page?
Education, under Whately
What
Elementary.
page, are you on?
Page 5.
Okay,
It says benefits and insurance, increased health insurance coverage, but I think that was just for the central office. Rather than, because their insurance is under our,
oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
so
Yeah,
I maybe put central office or something in there.
well, I'll leave it at, oh,
Cause that's one of the increases because of the
but
central,
it's on Whately Elementary.
Yeah.
But it's their central office,
Right.
yeah.
and then you also have no students from Whately under the Smith vocational, so we'll have to change that.
Oh, there's not one, yeah.
change this. Okay.
I have a suggestion. Looking at page 3, the primary drivers of town budget adjustments. Would it be possible, which is, I think is great, in terms of increases, would it be possible to add in 2 columns to the right? One that has the dollar difference of 26 to 27, which is back on page 8, and then also the percentage. So that people can see, oh, information technology is decreasing and it's gone down by whatever.
That would be on the warrant, right?
Yeah, but my point is.
You want it all in one.
Paper. And telling people to go look at your town warrant, it's on that page, and it'd be a lot cleaner. Because I think people are gonna study this and look at it if they could have the information there.
Okay,
I think that'd be better, beneficial.
okay.
And then I think in that same vein, since all these deltas you're about to put in add up to a total operating budget. At the bottom, above where it says on page 5, financial transfers, you put in a total operating dollar change and percentage, total education, dollar change, and total enterprise, just so people can see, here's your whole fiscal picture in 3 pages with some reasons why.
Ask for clarification to that.
Sure.
The increases and decreases are for specific line items in the budget.
Correct, but they're in a,
How would you put the increase in,
He's just saying,
for the category called select board administration.
Yeah.
when you go back to,
oh, you want the whole budget?
correct,
The whole budget, not.
just the select board
Okay, I was
adjustments.
thinking you wanted him to break down the
No.
No,
line, item. Okay.
No.
Just the total, so people can see, oh, there's increases and decreases, that drives the question, what is that?
Yeah,
And so just put it out.
Put it there, yeah.
So you're saying to put it under this top line?
no, adding
No,
columns.
add a column, add
Yeah, yeah,
two
yeah.
columns to the right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
where would everybody go?
On page 3, select board administration.
Yeah,
Here's your uppie and your downy, and then your delta
yeah.
and what that percentage is, which ties back to the operating
Would
budget.
that be the whole
For the,
federal government?
each line item,
Oh, each line?
correct, and what we already have that,
Yeah.
it's already in.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
It's just in a
taking it.
different.
Yeah,
yeah.
Just
no,
put it in a different.
Yeah.
no, I'm just letting her know, it's not like it requires that additional math, it's already here. We're
Yeah,
just gonna go and put it,
trying to make it a little bit, cleaner, that's all. I think, because when I go to the town meetings, there's always questions,
yeah,
and so.
no, I get
This is
what
a
you're
great way
saying,
to say, hey, here are the ups and downs,
yeah,
and then here's what the real impact is. I mean, we're only talking 2.5% for planning board.
sure,
I think we're gonna have 2 hours of conversation with the senior center.
Probably.
We're gonna have one,
remember though,
2 hours about.
yeah.
just remember though, people are voting on this.
Correct.
This is just a supplemental to help them answer, or just to. Knowing that you guys don't review the material before this meeting, they're not going to be even looking at these materials at town meeting until this question comes up, so
Right.
we can put this in here and I'm happy to do it.
Was that? Would be
The
nice.
more sometimes can be a little more confusing, I just wanna remind you that this is what they.
That's
correct.
This is what was, yeah,
But when you handed this out last year,
we didn't end this
you
out.
had, there was a letter, there was a summary inside the book. Oh, here's what's going on, which I found very interesting.
You're thinking 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and it was, yeah, it was Lynn and Tricia that did it last, 2 years ago. Last year I didn't do one.
Got it.
Yeah.
But I found that
Brian
very,
did.
I found that very
Yeah.
interesting, but having it somewhere,
Yeah,
I think would be beneficial.
yeah,
It's not too much work for people.
Would be nice if you could see stuff before.
they can. This goes out, we publish it 2 weeks before, no, well, it has to go out at least a week before, though, like,
Yes.
we do publish it as soon as possible, yes,
But it's online.
correct.
Right.
We all,
Unless you wanna pay for the
I
postage and
know.
printing.
yeah.
No,
It's-
no, I wanna do it all online.
But we could also publish the booklet alongside it.
But a town phone call saying, you know, this is online.
Right,
Cause you don't know what those are.
We could-
Let people know.
I know, but the explanations are up here.
Time,
And you can't,
Isn't
you
that
gotta go back to page 8 to see it. The other part of that is
Are you signed
page
for it?
8 and 9
it used
moved
to
up
get
right
them
behind
in,
it.
but I never.
Eight.
You haven't been getting?
Sorry, there's multiple conversations happening here.
So,
Email me tomorrow and I'll verify that you're actually in the system.
okay,
Like, just email me so it's a reminder.
She did send out one about the election.
Yeah,
right?
did you get the local
no, I
election
didn't,
one?
what about, we were.
I wanna make sure that your phone number's in there, so just email me tomorrow and I'll give me the phone number that you want and the email address that you want. Make sure that they're in.
Okay.
And
But to hear,
And if, there was a phone call that went out to tell people this was online and
Yeah.
remind them of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but she does do it, that's the point,
Yeah.
is that happens. I don't think your information's updated, so that's why I wanna do it.
It was on their.
I know. Julia, let me, just email me and I'll help you with that side item. Let's go back to the main question at three. So what were you asking?
So page 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Is the money point. Should that be moved ahead of financial transfers? Capital project request. At least page 8, after we've outlined, now here's your whole budget to look at. Said my increases, decreases, here's the dollar amount, here's the complete picture of page 8. Maybe you can leave capital where it is because it's in the section called capital. Let's say move page 8 to page 5. Make it page 6, essentially.
So you just want the operating budget moved after the capital projects and the transfers.
No, ahead of that. So think of,
He wanted after,
want
I
to,
think he wants it stuck in after the.
like this,
Yeah.
so you finish your,
the
here are my
operating
explanations, my little delta variance, now here's the whole McGill. You can look at, you can, so it's all in the same section, before the financial transfer capital project request and miscellaneous. So you're essentially making it the new page 6. And then what?
budget.
Oh, the budget overview.
Yeah, he wants the budget
Okay.
overview, move to,
He's off the
Right
board.
above.
right after
Just wanna
this,
move it up after the explanations.
after the explanations of the
I think
budget.
it's cleaner than saying, well, go to page 8 and
Right,
look
yeah.
if you want to.
So that all has to do with the operating budget.
Yeah.
That's
Correct.
gonna move
And now you're
on
in,
to
now you're into your capital.
Your capital and everything else after
Just
that.
logically, it appeared to me like it would be helpful like that.
That makes sense.
So move page 8 to page 5,
5. And then
or
move,
shove it into page that area.
right, it'll be its own page.
And then everybody would move one page forward.
Right. The bottom of page 5 now is the top of page 7.
I'll consider it.
Oh,
I have to agree, that does kind of
Ooh,
make
I
sense.
a second.
Well, I'm not asking for a vote. I'm only asking for feedback.
That was my feedback for your consideration. That's now collectively our feedback. Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so the reason why, I mean, I'll try to figure that out. The reason why it was done that way is the budget message explains what's all happening, which then leads us to the budget overview that is being presented.
Right, but that's after discussion on transfers of money.
Correct.
Capital projects, et cetera. So I'm just saying, just take the budget component, leave everything else the way it is. And take the budget summary doc and just put it at the end of this verbatim on,
Well, I
here's the
kind of
detail.
agree with you now, because all of what's on page, 5, transfers capital project is in the budget overview. right? So
Yeah.
looking ahead, right, isn't that?
That just includes the operating budget.
Yeah, it just includes the operating budget.
So
Correct.
that's, I think why Terry's saying
Oh,
that
okay.
Just move.
this part is related to the operating budget, so if we move that there, then you start talking about your capital projects and
I
everything,
thought there was a.
Correct.
so.
I'll think about it.
All right, I look forward to it.
And on page 9, the roof replacement, the dollar
Yeah.
figure needs to be up.
Well,
Yeah.
or it could go to very big piece.
Yeah, the balance.
Good.
Could go to the very beginning.
That's more what I'm thinking of is moving, looking at the table of contents, moving 8 and 9. To begin and then go into the town administrator
I think
budget
that-
message
I
that
like
explains.
that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Good thought.
Okay, we don't have to vote or anything on this.
No.
We don't have to vote.
I didn't see anything else.
Was anybody?
and then the planning board report obviously is not. It's planning board, so. So any other feedback? Any,
My eyes glazed over reading the plan.
I thought-
all the numbers I need to update,
That was
so
great to have.
Well, I'm sure it is, it's just.
my only concern is making sure that all the numbers match up because it's repeating numbers between warrants, between
Yeah.
this, between these other spreadsheets.
And we're only voting-
We're just getting to be
Yeah.
cumbersome.
Yeah.
What's next, Lon?
Okay, interdepartmental transfers or
For the transfers.
one of those?
We're gonna have to postpone this, but I'll just explain it. Well, there is one that you can vote on, which is really easy.
32 cent one?
So in May/June, we tend to do interdepartmental transfers where we move money by agreement of the finance committee and select board. Monies from one line item, one department budget into another department budget because there's a deficit. So one of these pages is a request to move 32 cents from the health inspection general expense account to the waste disposal general expense account. There is currently 50 some odd cents in health inspections, but waste disposal is in the deficit 32 cents. So we have to do a minor offset. The other request is, there is a deficit in the snow and ice removal budget of 32,400 something dollars.
Now we're talking.
So that one, I identified a number of different sources that we could transfer out of. I've given you what their current budget is, what they were budgeted for, how much they currently have in their account, and how much we would transfer out. Police department has not given me a thumbs up if they're okay with transferring out 5,000, so I want to hold off and have another
I'm
meeting.
just asking, why aren't we putting that up free cash? Why are we putting other budgets?
Because free cash would require a town meeting vote.
Okay, I got a message from the fire chief. Sorry, I missed your call. There's one that, okay. I understand that losing some budget money to winter roads. I didn't get a chance to get an email out. $8,000 will not break my budget. And I understand it's an unusual fiscal year due to several circumstances. Moving forward, I would expect that this is not a regular occurrence. This $8,000 represents about 15% of my non-salary budget. Keep in mind, my training payroll does not come out of the salary line item. I know the board will do its best for the town. Please feel free to quote. That's from Chief Kennedy.
Correct. And I spoke with him today as well.
Okay.
And his main concern is that he doesn't want to set a precedent. This isn't a precedent. We
Okay.
do these transfers. We cannot calculate whether or not we're gonna have a bad snow season or whatnot.
Yeah, right.
I would say we also should look at how we spend during that season. However, we are at the place that we are where we're $32,000 in the
We've
red.
expressed the last couple of years, prior to Garrett, we aimed pretty high for snow and ice. We came under because we had very easy winters.
Right.
Right.
So we've had.
This year we did
Under
it.
this one, we did it.
And so it's not that we're setting a precedent,
Okay.
not like we're saying we're
It's like
going.
very cool.
Oh, no. And I already talked with him. I think the reality is that when we have these unspent monies.
Yeah.
we should be using them within it's already been appropriated, so offset this red account. Rather than taking out a free cash or some other account when we don't need to. We should put a control on those departments and say, we're at the end of the fiscal year, unless there's a dire need for you to spend down your balance, which we shouldn't be encouraging. Let's use that extra money and offset the red account.
I agree with your point of view. Yeah, I agree with your
Yeah.
point of view. I question how many bills aren't paid right now. Because I think there's been a problem. Garrett's expressed to me, there's a lot of past due bills where the accountant said, oh, all the bills are in, and they find out there's bills that are 2, 3, 4 months.
The accountant can only determine that all the bills are in if the departments have notified the accountant. That's been the problem, is the departments are behind on their administrative, certain ones are.
So it's not a question of accrual and cash to pay, because if they get the bill, they can accrue for the
Oh, yeah,
expense.
yes.
So it's already
Yeah.
inside your operating statement. We don't have a bill
I
yet.
can't speak to everybody. There has been instances where invoices, bill schedules have been submitted, have not been paid.
But does, I'm sorry to interrupt, does submitted mean booked?
Means given to the accountant, they don't
To be
get paid
processed.
for a warrant and no explanation has been given. And then another warrant is filed and they do get paid. So there's this lapse in time where I think that's why.
So he doesn't have enough, maybe he doesn't have enough time
Exactly.
in his schedule to process the
Exactly.
bills.
It's either enough time, there have been instances where the invoices aren't complete. There's an issue with the itemized item, there's
Yeah.
probably
There's issues.
invoices that he then has to fall in, yeah.
Garrett,
Aside from all that, I'm just worried that we're gonna. Does JP have, is there bills out there that aren't paid?
Here's one point that I reminded JP.
Okay,
He has a fire revolving account, which you guys just
Yeah.
agreed to, the $10,000 spending limit. That has over $10,000 in it right
Okay.
now.
use that one.
Yes,
Okay,
and
okay.
Dara, I think there might be a little bit of miscommunication. Because Dara was really good about communicating if she didn't pay a bill. James was having a difficult time getting everything done. He may not have made that communication to that department head. So, I think the department head is expecting that if something isn't good, they'll hear.
Yeah,
But then James is
Just tell
Yeah.
it didn't tell him because he was either too bogged down. Sometimes an invoice comes in and it doesn't have some kind of a date on it,
Yes.
a date when it was purchased. So he can't pay it, so he sets it
there's
aside.
tax on it.
Or there's a
It's
tax that has to be removed, or there's so many little
Yes.
circumstances
Yeah.
I
that,
imagine with experience doing the job, you get much better at it too, and
Yeah.
much faster at it.
right,
It's probably a lot to tackle with getting different bills from different people all the time and different. how
Yeah.
to do it. I get that.
Definitely.
So what's happening in this currently interim period where there's nobody doing this job?
Oh, we have an interim.
You do have
a yeah. Yep, but that's a moot point on the question at hand, which is, but I wanna respect the police department and the police chief that I don't, since that's the only one that I haven't gotten a yes from yet. I'd rather we don't have finance. go on it.
Great.
I suggested that maybe we could do something like a little bit before town meeting
Yeah,
to do this transfer,
Are
you know, like.
all 100% of the winter roads invoices?
yeah,
So
that's
are we sure?
all the invoices that highway received, that they knew they were related to this, they have that's, the accountant has been told. He has them all and he's already paid them all, and so we know where that account is done.
The only reason why I question that is because winter roads typically go into April and the bills come out May 1st. It's now
Right,
May, whatever. Are we sure we have?
we didn't have any additional purchases, and so it was, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll hold this one until we hear from.
Yeah.
The police chief on. what-
There is also the fact that we do have 15,000 in reserve. I just don't wanna use any reserve funds yet until we get into June.
Okay.
In
Yeah.
case there are other deficits
Okay.
that we then need to take.
So do you want a motion for the 32 cents?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to approve the 32-cent transfer for the health inspections general expense to the waste disposal. Is that good enough?
Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second, any other?
Yeah, really.
Seriously.
Any other discussion? No, okay, all those in favor? Aye.
I voted yes,
Okay.
just because.
I'm gonna pass this around if you just wanna sign.
I voted
the
yes.
lines, I think it's.
Okay, so now. Liaison updates? If anything happens with anybody? Yeah. JD, I don't
We
think
had a-
basement.
Municipal building committee meeting, but it didn't have much to talk about, I don't think.
But you're not a finance liaison,
No, I'm not.
but I guess you could report on it, but yeah.
Yeah, no,
So I don't, there is anything to report, and items not anticipated?
Yep.
Doesn't appear that there's any items not anticipated, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.